It is a party that was ushered by a public show of political affection and bromance. But if the latest power play is anything to go by, then the ruling Jubilee Party could be headed for a bitter split, or to some, is already split in the middle. The duo who matched ties now seemingly distant. Tonight on Pundits Night, we make sense of the state of the ruling Jubilee Party. Our guests, as always, Herman Manyora, who is our residential analyst, a political analyst, Soilo Meka Caleb Kositani, Gabriel Muduma, a political analyst, was supposed to be part of the show, but that seemingly will not be the case. Nonetheless, the show continues. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you once again for making time for us here on Pundits Night on TV 47.
Good evening, Abu Bakr.
Good evening, Abu Bakr.
Good. Mheshimiwa Caleb Kositani, let me start with you. I was watching a media interview earlier on where you said, and I quote, the Jubilee Party is in a very confused state. We are not functioning as a party. We are functioning as a private members club. The ruling Jubilee Party galloped other parties to form a coalition that was formidable to have earned the Kenyan Trust twice now. What has reduced that party to quote-unquote a private members club?
Well, Abu Bakr, it's very clear in the open that Jubilee is not functioning as per the requirements of the Political Parties Act. We are not filing our returns on time. We are not holding our PG meetings. We have not held party elections. We are going into some coalitions that don't really make sense and which are unnecessary. We don't need them because we have absolute majority in all the elective positions in the Republic. We are misusing the funds that are allocated to us by the political parties fund, and the funds that are contributed by the elected representatives of the county assemblies, members of the Senate, Council of Governors, and members of the National Assembly. So,
Caleb, in your response, you say a lot of we. If one is to ask, who are these people? You are the Deputy Secretary General of the party. I suppose you must know them.
When I speak of we, I speak of we are discussing a party here, so it can never be in singular, Abu Bakr. And I don't think you want me to be dropping the names which are rather obvious and are out there. The names are rather obvious. So it's a fact that as Jubilee, we are not even operating democratically. We are now under dictatorship, whereby decisions are made in some gazebo somewhere and nyamachoma eating parties, and then those decisions are meant to be imposed on the membership of the party and on the elected leaders of the party. So I think ODM is having a field day whenever we have a project or we want to destroy or cause mayhem in our party. They are most willing, and they come and help us to destroy our political party, while yet them in ODM, they are running their political party as per law, as per the requirements of the law.
We'll come to the broad. We'll come to the broader discussion of who could have driven the party the way it has gone to. Nonetheless, just on this quote, you say a private members club. Just for purpose of curiosity, is this club inclusive of all the party members, as it were? Well, I want to say this. It is not inclusive. It's being run by very few. It's very few people who are actually running Jubilee Party. It's now a cabal, like most of the elected members of Jubilee. Even me as Deputy Secretary General, I don't have access to the party offices in Pangani. I don't even have an office, for your information. Really, how could we be functioning as a political party? All right, away from that statement, let's bring in Herman Manyora, who is a residential analyst on the show. Herman, is it done and dusted in as far as the ruling Jubilee Party, the unity, the bromance, the political affection that we saw earlier is concerned?
Looks like so, but allow me just to say hi to my friend Caleb Kostani, but to wonder that he would not have known up to this day that political parties are at the very best a private members club, but ordinarily they really are properties of individuals. And that while you are part of it, while the party lasts, while you are enjoying, you do not know that until you are tossed out of the club, then you know that chama kiko na wenyewe. So I'm surprised that, I know he knows he's pretending, but he knows. For Jubilee, honestly, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto must be the best pretenders if they can be pretending that is over. You know, it's quite possible, and people have said, that Uhuru could be playing with Raila and the rest by pretending to be against William Ruto. But that level of game must be the highest in the world. So if then what we are seeing is what there is, I think it's over. They say it's not over until it's over, but for this particular case, I certainly think it's over. It cannot get where it has gotten, where the deputy president says the kind of things he says, where the president or his people subject the deputy party leader and the deputy president of the country to what they have subjected William Ruto to, really, if there's anything left behind. I think the plate is clean, the food has been hidden or eaten, the rest has been hoarded. So I don't think there's anything remaining for Jubilee in terms of a party that really brings together William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. I think it's
And Herman, where then and when then did the proverbial rain started beating the ruling party, in your own view?
As far as the public is aware, of course, privately we can't tell, but publicly it started on the steps of Arambe House on the 9th of March 2018. That famous handshake, famous to others, to Caleb it must have been famous. That's where it all started. It was not just rain, it was serious rain with hailstones and thunder, at least from the perspective of my friend Caleb Kostani. And I don't think it's ever been anything else other than disaster for William Samoei Ruto. Because from that day onwards, his dreams were shattered. It was like a pot he was carrying to 2022 with a lot of promise. And I can tell you, Abu Bakari, and if Caleb Kostani would confirm this, it would have taken a miracle to stop William Ruto from being the president in 2022. I do not see what anybody in this country
Haman, let me interject you at that point. Is it not the case still, despite the ongoing disquiet in the Jubilee Party, there are people, many in numbers, who believe that it will be a miracle to stop Ruto from being the president, the fifth for that matter?
No. William Ruto can become president in 2022. I'm not like those people who write him off. In fact, I always advise the Jubilee Air wing of Muradhi and the rest. I tell them, you can only be a fool to write off William Ruto. This is not a man you write off. So he can still win, but the odds are stacked against him. And what I was saying about 9th of March was that from that day, that which was so obvious, so sure, that which it would have taken a miracle to prevent happened. And therefore from that day, it was not as sure as it would have been. I think nobody would have stood against William Ruto. A few lunatics perhaps, but a sane man with the full backing of Uhuru Kenyatta, nobody would have really stood against William Ruto. It was gone. So from that day, then it became difficult. Caleb may wish to say they are assured of victory. Every team says they are going to win. Every player says they are going to win. Every boxer says they will win. So they can say that. Many people say that. And don't forget, between now and 2022, there's a lot of space. And in politics, one day is a long time. Yeah.
All right, let me bring back Caleb Kostani to the discussion. Is the handshake between Raila Odinga and the President Uhuru Kenyatta, the genesis of the jittery in the Jubilee Party? All right, it seems as though we will be able to reconnect back with Soy Member of Parliament Caleb Kostani. Talk to us. The discussion tonight is, of course, we are Making sense of the state of the ruling Jubilee Party in as far as the disquiet and the discontent in the party is concerned. On 22047, quite a number of your feedback as well is coming in. Let me go through some. Kariuki from Nakuru says Ruto all the way to State House 2022. That is Kariuki from Nakuru. Someone else who has not mentioned his or her name says it is unfortunate that it is all about politics, 2 years to an election. It's time to change the discourse. Nonetheless, let me get back to Herman, who is with us. If one is to ask Herman, who wants the DP out? In his latest of speeches, he points out to people who as though they want him out. Who wants the DP out of the party that is the second in command?
The owners of the handshake and the BBI infrastructure certainly will want him out of the way. BBI is an infrastructure to enable Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga achieve what they want to achieve. And that is not going to be possible when we have people like William Ruto around. In other words, between what they want to do for Kenya in 2022 and beyond, and today, there is a man by the name of William Ruto. So it is to be those ones. And sometimes it may not even be the principles. Sometimes they are overzealous followers and supporters and the wheeler dealers, like Ruto says, who may be more excited than the principle. So, but basically, looking at the handshake and the BBI that followed, one would not be wrong or far from the truth to say that indeed, what is contained in the BBI, what the handshake would want to do, is not going to be achieved if William Samoei Ruto is allowed a free hand in what takes place between now and 2022. So definitely they will want him out. But you see...
How is Ruto a threat then to the implementation of a report?
It's very simple. Mm-hmm. On the 9th of March, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga told us they know what ails this country. They went back to their fathers, Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and they traced our problems from 1963 to the problem between the two families. And they identify some of the problems that have bedeviled this country. And they say they have a cure for that. They know what the problem is, they have the remedy. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. Mm-hmm. How would you actualize that if somebody else takes over the reins of power? You must be the ones who take over after 2022, from 2022, to be able to actualize that. Is a dream. Many people support BBI, the idea of sorting out what it is that ails this country. What makes us go to war and go at each other with disastrous consequences, loss of human life, loss of property, maiming of limb, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. If they have the capacity and what it takes to sort it out, many people support them. But you see, in order to do that, mm-hmm. they must have power post 2022.
And Herman, if this report is supposed to be a blueprint, why should there be a worry of who implements it? But before you answer that question, I understand we have Mheshimiwa Caleb Kostani back. Mheshimiwa, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Bakari, you can hear me?
Yes, I can. Glad that we have you back. Nonetheless, I asked you a question before we lost you, and the question was, when did the jittering in the ruling Jubilee Party, in your own view as the Deputy Secretary General of this party, begin?
Well, I think it began as Haman as 10th of March 2018, when there was a handshake between our party leader and the former leader of opposition. Mm-hmm. And that is when things started going wayward in Jubilee. I've just had Haman say there that President Uhuru Kenyatta and
All right, I understand we'll be able to reconnect again with Soy Member of Parliament, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the ruling Jubilee Party. Nonetheless, let's bring back Herman Manyora to the discussion. Herman, you talked of the BBI report, the handshake, as though it is the genesis of the disquiet in the ruling Jubilee Party. If this is a report, as I had asked earlier on, and a blueprint in which Kenya's prosperity was to be unlocked somehow, why should there be a concern of who implements it?
You see, the BBI report will come in stages. Stage one we got last year in November. Another one is now coming. There will be one or two things that were not in the initial report. But I can assure you, just like when that one came out, I told Kenyans, this is not the report. The BBI report will come. People asked me, what do you mean? Now they saw, another one is now coming. I can assure you, the changes Uhuru and Raila would want to put in place will not come before 2022. They will put certain changes in place through a referendum and other changes through the parliament and administratively. But the major change will come after 2022. And that's why you must not only defeat William Ruto, you must defeat him in such a way he does not show his face again. You run him out of town. You defeat him.
Herman, is that a binary and quite one way of looking at it, in the sense that the entire problem or the entire danger to the implementation of whatever the president and his former political rival Raila Odinga have can only be threatened by one person, who is in the name of William Samoei Ruto? Is that not binary, Herman?
For two reasons. One is that Ruto, the man, is not a man you are going to play around with. He knows what he wants. He's going for it. He's sure about it. And not many people have that kind of focus and that kind of stamina. Not many people have the precision of an eagle like William Ruto. So if you read Shakespeare, Julius Caesar, Caesar says he doesn't like a certain character. He doesn't like people who think so hard like that. So Ruto is not a man you may really want to be on the other side. Secondly, you see, like I've told you, it is what you want to do. So somebody standing in your way, as much as you are standing in their way. Ruto was headed to State House, and you are standing in their way. Do you think he's happy? So for that reason, you know, it's like Ruto will be like a wounded animal. Do you want to walk next to a wounded animal? Wounded in the sense he was assured of State House. And then come 9th of March, and then the pot just breaks. He's looking at the pieces and he's putting them together, this time gluing them very carefully. So much as they don't like him, he too has a problem with them, because they are stopping from going to State House. So both sides really are looking at each other and they are not happy about what the other side carries. That's what I meant.
All right, let me bring back Caleb Kostani.
Remember, I've told you more.
I understand Mheshimiwa Caleb Kostani is with us now. Mheshimiwa, from the latest public statement of the Deputy President, the tone seems as though there are people who want him out of the Jubilee Party. Who, in your view, wants the second in command, the Deputy Party leader of the party, out of the party?
Well, I think Abubakar, those who want the Deputy President out of Jubilee are out there in the open. They're being led by Morathe, and others are non-members of Jubilee, and you cannot leave ODM out of it, because it is in their interest that Jubilee disintegrates completely. You can hear the way Professor is narrating. But one thing that Professor has admitted there is that William Ruto is a force to reckon with. And they realize how important he is, how powerful he is, and that is why there's all this hula baloo, and people are tripping over each other to try and be the one to have brought William Ruto down. It is sad that none of them, they are not ready to employ democratic means. And that is why they keep talking about deep state and systems and all these intimidating tones that they keep bringing about. But I would say that if these people who are claiming that they are deep state and want William Ruto out of the Jubilee party, the best way to do it is to have an election in Jubilee. Let them call for grassroots elections in Jubilee, right from the grassroots to the national level, and that is when they will know who the real owners of the political party are. But as it is now, our party has been hijacked by a few individuals who cannot face the 190 in an election.
Caleb, in your own words, you said, and I quote, "We are not forming another party until we sort out the mess in Jubilee party," end of quote. What will it entail to sort out the mess in this Jubilee house?
Well, it will entail us forcing, and not even forcing, Jubilee complying with the law, which requires that by now we ought to have held our elections. You remember, those of us who are serving in various capacities in the Jubilee party at the national level, we were on an interim basis from 2016. It is actually quite unfair for us to continue being in office without the mandate of the 8 million plus members of the Jubilee party. So we will be asking the party to comply with the law and hold elections. Our term actually expired in May this year, and the Secretary General, the Registrar of Political Parties, seeking an extension, and the extension granted. And I don't think the extension was open-ended. It has to have a time limit, and there is also a time limit by law which requires us to hold a grassroots election as a political party, and that is where we will meet with its fellows. We are ready for the grassroots elections anytime, any day, and that is when the Jubilee will get back to its feet.
And given that the prospects are either of sorting out the mess, as you say, or failure to do so, will quitting the party be an option?
Well, I have said before, Abubakar, that we are having a political problem, and we shall have a political solution for this. One thing I want to add on is from the way I've heard my good friend Professor Manyora speak, it's as if everybody is trying to trip over for Uhuru to endorse them, and it's like William Ruto is also looking for Uhuru's endorsement. We have said before, when we teamed up with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013 and 2017, we never went into any agreement that he would support William Ruto. He is not compelled by anybody other than his own words, where he said he would go for 10 years, Yake Kumi, now William Ruto Kumi. But we don't hold him against that. The president is free to support any candidate of his choice, or not to support any. He's absolutely free. But what we are asking for is fairness. Let us stop all this mistreatment and name calling and trying to brand others as not being loyal just because we have taken a certain political direction, which we are entitled to, which is our democratic right. We have had before issues to do with the corruption being dealt with selectively. We now have the mega KEMSA scandal that is all over the world, and it's huge. We have seen no action. We are just seeing attempts to postpone the problem. We're not going to let it go. We follow this KEMSA. We call them the gazebo news. We will have to follow them up to the end so that we can either recover the money or people should go to jail for that KEMSA theft.
All right, Mheshimiwa, thank you for your thoughts. Quite a number of your feedback. You, the viewer, is coming in. As always, your voice matters. Text us on 22047. The hashtag to use on Twitter is TV47News. Let me go through some of your feedback. Samuel from Gakoe, Kiambu County says, government should stop playing games with people's democracy. He says, thank you for educating us. Continue watching the county's television, Samuel. Someone else on 22047 who was not mentioned, his or her name, says, Wanjiku is not part of BBI. It belongs to loyal family and making individuals rich. How can we have more MPs, governors? They are already a burden. Talk to us. That's according to someone who has not mentioned his view. Not my opinion. Talk to us on 22047. The hashtag to use is TV47 News. Just a reminder of who our guests are tonight. Herman Manyora, our residential analyst, and Caleb Kostani, so a member of parliament. Let's get back to the discussion now. Herman Manyora, I want to challenge you for a minute and assume that you are the Deputy President of this wonderfully made Republic of Kenya, and you are Ruto for that 1 minute. How will you react tonight, knowing that there are side talks from the House on the Hill, there are sidelining, there are members who are loyal to your side who have been either demoted from committee positions or targeted, as Kostani has said, in the fight against corruption? How would you react to that tonight?
Yeah, before I react, because I'm not him, hoping I can be him, what I will do, before I react, let me point out to my friend Kalbo once again. Oh, just a minute. Okay, I think definitely we have said this repeatedly. He has the option of quitting the party and remaining deputy president. He has the option of quitting both the party and the position of deputy president and assembling his troops ready for war in 2022. But he can also do what other vice president and deputy president do all over the world, which is just to sit there and wait. To obey your boss, to appear like you are not even there. The famous 48 laws of power, one of them, you are there but you are not there. Just be a Mike Pence. When Mike Pence refers to President Trump, you'll think he's in Africa. The president. So Ruto can change and be what every deputy president or vice president really is, if he wants. But he can quit. Those are the options he has.
Haman, then, understanding that the DP is not a political appointee, he is one who equally, even though not on the ballot, mobilized for the success of his head so as to be a deputy. Will it not be too much of an extreme to assume as though he will have no functions, just be, for the lack of a better word, a flower deputy president?
First of all, there's something like constructive dismissal. It's like he has been dismissed already. So you are waiting for a letter and you have been told to go home. But the deputy president anywhere in the world, I even am amused when deputy governors talk. There can be no job description for a vice president or a deputy president, even if you come on the same ticket. Is it like an heir to the throne, Prince Charles? You just sit there and wait for the queen to die, you become king. It's like a spare wheel. You cannot use the fifth wheel. It must remain in the boot until you have a puncture. So a deputy president is a person who is supposed to wait for the president to have a puncture. Either temporarily to assign him some duties, or maybe good luck from one side, bad luck from one side, God forbid for all of us, that something happens and you take over. Or you wait and hopefully the country appreciates what you did together with the president for them, and they give you another term and maybe another one. That's what the deputy president is supposed to do. There's no job description for a vice president. It's a spare wheel, must remain in the boot, waiting for a puncher.
All right, Caleb Kostani, understanding that you are hearing what Haman Manyora is saying in relation to the DP, is the man who you are a loyal supporter of jumping the gun too early by wanting to outsmart his boss?
Well, I'm surprised that my good friend Professor Haman is still of the old school, whereby a deputy president or a vice president was just meant to be seen and not to be heard. I think we need to accept that William Ruto is a worker. He's not a lazy person. He's a go-getter. And I think it says a lot because of his background. This is a person who was born into poverty, humble beginnings, and he has made it. He has made it in life, and he's a role model to many people who came. I mean, I'm sure maybe 90% of Kenyans have had the same background as William Ruto, and they see him as a ray of hope for them to succeed. So I think William Ruto has not jumped the gun. All he has done is he has been actively participating in what any person who cares about uplifting the lives of others would do. Given the position that he holds, he has been reaching out to Kenyans. He has gone to every part of Kenya, whether those who voted for Jubilee or who voted against us. He has served all equally.
Caleb will understand. Caleb will also understand that his rounds in what you say are development and getting to Kenyans has also been translated as though it was the start of early campaigns in as far as the 2022 politics is concerned. You are not ruling out that as a prospect,
yes,
are you?
I was coming to that. You see, the reason why a lot of people think, or rather those few cabals think William Ruto is campaigning is because these guys who call themselves system and deep state, first of all, they never go for any elective post. The second issue is they feel that anytime you engage with Wananchi, it should only be your engagement with Wananchi should only be during election time. And after elections, you should just go sit yourself, cover yourself with your duvet, and enjoy your tenderpreneur skills. So the big difference with that is William Ruto has this passion, has this calling to serve the people. So he has been going around the country, serving the people, listening to their problems, helping the president to drive the Jubilee agenda. But that has now been hijacked and has been choreographed as he's campaigning for 2022. Campaigns are not yet, and I don't know what they will do now when William Ruto decides when the actual campaign begins. If they are scared of William Ruto now and he has not started campaigning, then what will they do when the campaign bells ring? I'm sure they'll be in for a root shock. What they should be doing now is, first of all, they should be tabling their candidate, because William Ruto is a candidate. Jubilee has a candidate. We have members of Jubilee who are saying their candidate is in ODM. They have been promising Kalonzo that he'll be the candidate. They have promised Gideon Moi. I don't know who else. We hear names of my good friend Dr. Mukisa Kitui. So they are promising everybody. They have these carrots they are using in order to hold people together. And the sooner they get on their candidate, the better it is for us, because I look at them dilly-dallying and the time is not on their side.
Fair enough, Caleb. I asked you the question of the 2022 pre-politics from either the DP or those loyal supporters of his. You say it's not the case, but nonetheless, looking at the statements, for instance, of Kimani Ichung'wah when he says, and I quote, tunataka kuunda Kenya mpya na hiyo Kenya mpya tutaunda na rais wa tano ambaye atakuwa ni William Ruto. When a president in the State House hears such statement, one would think this will be a smack on the face of a president who is already in power.
It shouldn't be, because he is serving his second and final term as per the Constitution. It should never bother the current president what other people are planning when other people are planning for his exit, because his exit is constitutionally locked. And let me say this, Haman, if Abubakar, we are Christians. We believe that one day we will be going to heaven. Since we were born, we are being told Jesus is coming soon. We are ready to go to heaven. We don't know when, we don't know the day, we don't know the hour, but we are prepared and we are always working on our journey to heaven. My dear brother, 2022, we know that on the 8th of August, 2022, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., there will be an election. You really can't tell us that we cannot prepare for what we know the day when the day is coming, and we cannot, and then we are preparing to go to heaven. So really, I think let people really look for something else. We have not started campaigns. We are just making our presence known, and we have not stopped anybody else from doing exactly the same things that William Ruto is doing and his team.
All right, let me allow Herman Manyora to react to your statement. Is this then political preparation coming too early, Herman?
Obviously, normally we would not expect a deputy president to start campaigning basically to succeed his boss this early. It really isn't the way to go. Because even with the blessing of the boss, it will still not be good for him. Because then the boss will be seen to be picking a candidate for the people. It happened in 2002. So whether with the support of the president or not, it really wouldn't be good, in my view, and I think in the view of many Kenyans, for a deputy president to start the campaign as early as he started. However, we must allow it, because when the handshake happened, I think they pushed him into it. He realized, if I play the traditional role of the vice president or deputy president, I'm dead, I'm gone. So he had to find his strategy. And I think after consulting his friends or advisors or thinking it out himself, he realized the best strategy to fight the handshake would be to come out fighting immediately, initially through proxies, but as is becoming the case increasingly now, he's doing it himself. So I think it's a strategy. Otherwise, maybe he would not have done the way he is doing if the handshake didn't happen, if he wasn't jolted into it. Perhaps he realized this is not a normal development. You can't do it the normal way. You can't wait, which is normal. You hit and strike. Otherwise, if you lie there waiting, you'll be slaughtered. I think that is a strategy he arrived at. It may not be that he doesn't know that for a deputy president to start campaigning to succeed his boss is really unheard of in many parts of the world. I'm sure he knows, but he reckons that's the best way to go.
All right, Herman, I want us to talk of the question of the constitutional amendment, a question as well that the president and his deputy seem to have varied in as far as the tone of their response to it is concerned. Nonetheless, let me sample some of the viewers' thoughts. Lawrence, watching from Embu, says Ruto is the only man who can save us from these three families. He has not made mention of what the three families are. Your assumption as a viewer is as good as mine. George Gatundu South says we are not part of the BBI. It's for Densi, I suppose that. Anyway, from Gatundu, George says he's not part of the BBI. Wanjiku says he's not part of a BBI. It belongs to loyal families and making individuals rich. Continue sharing your thoughts with us, and as far as your feedback to the discussion is concerned. Now let's move from the disquiet in the ruling Jubilee Party House to again what has proved to be a topic on its own in as far as the disagreement, the public at least show of disagreement is concerned, on the question of constitutional amendment. And I quote what the president and his deputy have both said in as far as this question is concerned. The president in his latest address said, and I quote, "We must not succumb to the paralysis of constitutional rigidity. We must treat our constitution as a living document that must constantly adjust to our emerging realities." The DP over the weekend said, and I quote, "This constitution change push is for the leaders, not for the people. The people are more concerned about their daily living. Jubilee has no policy position. Maybe when the BBI document is released, we may tell the people that this is not a priority." Caleb, for a president and his deputy to publicly differ in tone in as far as a question of such magnitude is concerned, will point out definitely to the disagreement that is deeply seated between the two. Or are we simply reading too much from their tone?
Abubakar, I don't know where your democratic thoughts are, but nobody has the monopoly of knowledge.
Fair enough.
It is not written anywhere that when the president decides that this is the way he wants to go, that is the right way, and then everybody else must follow. Then there would be there's no reason for us calling ourselves a democratic society. I think personally, and I agree with the deputy president, and this is, I don't agree with him because I'm supporting him politically, but I agree with him on the principle that what is so urgent about changing the constitution now, 2 years to an election? Who is the complainer? Who has felt hindered or pressurized by this constitution? Wanjiko, as we were told by President Moi, God rest his soul in peace, has not complained. If from the comments that you just read 3 comments, all of them were anti-BBI. So if that is the feeling of the people, then who is this pushing for this BBI? Who stands to benefit from a change the constitution move? It is actually important that we look at the leaders, and this I say the president and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga listen to Kenyans. Kenyans are saying we have other priorities. Our priority is not the constitution. We have not even implemented this constitution to 100%. If we had even implemented up to 70%, then we would be able to know what is not happening. So what we should be targeting now is first, let us implement this constitution. Let us feel how it is once it is 100% implemented. Have the more funds devolved to the county governments, which have done a tremendous job. And the reason why I also don't support this BBI story, for lack of a better word, is because remember we had a big fanfare at Bomas of Kenya to launch a document that wasn't existing. We went to Bomas of Kenya. There was a big fanfare. There was a lot of drama. And some of us went to Bomas of Kenya reluctantly because we really didn't believe in BBI right from the beginning. But somehow our team, we convinced ourselves and said, because our president and party leader has called the meeting, let us go there. And we were hoping that we would leave Bomas with copies of BBI, each member of parliament, each governor, and the MCAs who are present, to be given copies to take to their constituents so that they will read and interrogate the document. And from the short preview that we were shown at Bomas, we said, and they said, hey, hallelujah, this document is not bad after all. And up to that moment, nobody had opposed BBI. Then immediately it was launched, we were told, okay, the same committee has been given an extension of time, and they are going now to redo the document again. So why was there a fanfare in Bomas for a document that was half-baked? So what is this new BBI that now we are being told we must accept, we must follow? If you are not accepting BBI, then you're against the president. I have my rights, and I have the rights of the people.
Mheshimiwa Caleb, you raised a question of who stands to benefit from amendment of the constitution. I understand Gabriel Mudhuma is with us now towards the dying minutes of the show nonetheless. Gabriel, we are talking of constitutional amendment, and should it be or should it not be? The question is, who stands then to benefit from a constitutional amendment? Gabriel.
Well, thank you for having me, and apologies for coming in late. Your question actually is very important, but what probably we should emphasize on when you say who stands to benefit, one group should stand to benefit. In fact, I won't call it a group. The person who needs to benefit is Wanjiku. The Constitution should speak, or the change that you want to do should speak to the heart of Wanjiku. The president himself actually made this remark some time back when he said we should read the Constitution, we should read BBI, and then we should have a conversation, all of us. So he threw it to the common Wananchi. He threw it to Wanjiku. Wanjiku should have a conversation with that which needs to be reviewed, that which needs to be changed, and that which needs to be implemented. This must be a Wanjiku-driven process. Anything else, it doesn't matter what politicians are saying. If it's not Wanjiku-driven, it is bound to fail. We've seen it throughout history.
And Gabriel, given the political back and forth in as far as the agreements and disagreements on the implementation, the amendment rather, of the Constitution is concerned, is it a case of Wanjiku having their way, or the politicians at least having their say?
At the end of the day, the sovereignty of this republic lies with her people. That is the bottom line. We should be talking about a people-driven process. It is not about politicians. By the way, politicians, just like every other person, they have the first integral hit to the Constitution, and that is being Kenyan. All right? As much as we agree that they are part and parcel of this country, they must walk with where Wanjiku is headed. Remember, at the end of the day, this Constitution must speak as a live instrument to two things: who we are and how we want to be governed. And who is this that we're talking about we want to be governed? It is through the changes that are, or it is through what the Constitution talks about. A Constitution is a live document, all right? And it is when we have to sit down as Kenyans and ask, first of all, what are we changing, all right? If it's reviewing the Constitution, we must review it. As a matter of fact, I believe it's time to review the Constitution, but as we do so, we must ask, what has worked? What has not worked? What have we implemented? What have we not implemented? Then we can have a conversation, right? Failure to which I think we will allow, and again, I go back to what the president said some time ago, don't allow this constitution to be hijacked by politicians. So what was he saying? It must be Wanjiku-driven. If it's not Wanjiku-driven process, I guarantee you we are going to have bumps ahead.
All right, Herman, relatively on the same area, will it be the interest of the people that will outdo any other interest in as far as the said amendments to the Constitution is concerned, Herman?
I have repeatedly said the modern state, Kenya included, is an arrangement to allow a few people to govern, to rule, and to enjoy the resources of the country. Don't let anybody lie to you that any one of them is doing anything in the interest of Wanjiku. That is a lie. Not William Ruto, not Raila Odinga, not Uhuru Kenyatta, not Caleb Kostani. None of them are doing anything for Bakari and Manyora. That is the truth. And the only time, if you read the Constitution, why do you see in the Constitution aspects that tell you Wanjiku is being taken care of? When you go to court, you are thrown in the remand. When Caleb is arrested, he is given a mattress. What are you talking about, my friend? The arrangement is for those in power to enjoy, and occasionally they pretend they are fighting among themselves. But basically, they are a class of people whose interest we help to sustain. So the only time the citizens of our country really have a direct saying what's going on in that country is when we have a revolution. That's the only time. But all other times when everything is peaceful in America is about Biden and Trump and Obama and the rest of those people. It is a class of people pretending they are differing, there are differences among themselves when they are none. But there is nowhere in the Constitution. Let me tell you, Abubakari, if this Constitution was meant for Wanjiku and Atieno and the Nasimiyu and Asha, it would have addressed certain fundamental issues. Theft of public money. It has not addressed that. It would have addressed how to remove Kenyans from poverty. It hasn't addressed that. Even simple things like ensuring there's fairness, that the son of a peasant in Siaya stands the same chance with the son of a rich man living in Lavington when it comes to access to a job. If the Constitution, and it can do that, the Constitution, if they give me 3 weeks, I go somewhere, I'll come up with a document that ensures the son of a peasant in Bungoma stands the same chance when it comes to a government job with the son of a billionaire from Kiambu. It doesn't. So the Constitution has no provision to convince me that is meant for Wanjiku. There's nothing in the Bill of Rights. This is a document to help the rulers govern and create rooms of refereeing. Hello?
Then Haman has not read the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. Let me tell you something.
I wish I could hear what Gabriel is saying.
This is a very fine document. This is a great document. Mm-hmm. All right. Is it 100%? No. Mm-hmm. Can it be changed? Can it be reviewed? There's so many things you can do with this with the document. But as we talk about, we need to understand the sanctity of our Constitution. This is not something to joke about. This is not something to play around with. Mm-hmm. By the way, do you know every time we go in to swear a president, do you know the most important facet that he swears to is the Constitution? That is why he places his hand on a holy book and swears to uphold and protect the Constitution. So this is a live document that should be treated with utmost respect. I give an example of a Constitution as that, you see, that priceless artifact where the curator comes to find a Mona Lisa at the Louvre. He did not draw up the Mona Lisa, but he protects it. He conserves it, even though it's not his own. That is how we should treat this constitution. Because Constitution talks about how we want to be governed as a people. And that is why it has to be, must our Jiko do. This is not something that politicians should come together and say this is how we want the country to go. No. This is one herself talking. This is how I want to be governed. This is how I want my children and my children's children to be governed. All right. So I think this issue of over dramatizing and thinking that we are just playing around. We are talking about a very serious document that carries a spirit of a people.
All right, Gabriel, fair enough. You have made your point. I understand we are extremely out of time. Nonetheless, one final question to the three of you, and I want us to get slightly back to the topic we discussed earlier on, the ruling Jubilee Party, specifically tailor this question to the Ruto factor and the persona of who he is. Herman, you noted of not underrating him in as far as the man Ruto is concerned, given that he has the financial resources at least. He's a grassroots mobilizer, well known for that, a workaholic, as Constani has alluded to. What will it take then to outdo him politically, if anyone has the ambitions to do that? In less than 30 seconds. Herman first.
You see, Ruto is all those things you have said and more. And I've said he's not one person you can underrate. So anybody underrating him. But however, unless your stars are aligned, in politics, even in developed countries, it is not always your ability. We are not as crude as Stalin to say that it's not the people who vote who matter, but people who count. We are not as crude as that. But there's an element of truth in that. In other words, it is not your effort alone. It's not your popularity. It's not your money. It's not all those good things that William Ruto is that will see him in State House. There is always a certain hand somewhere. And this happens even in the election of the Pope at the Vatican in Italy. There are always hidden hands that move the pieces so that by the time you enter State House, it is never really just a question of how popular you are. I finish by saying, if that had been the case, surely Raila Odinga would have slept in State House.
Same question, Mheshimiwa Caleb Constani.
It is very sad listening to Herman speak the way he has just spoken. He seems to believe that other than the voting process that we have, which elects all leaders, and I'm a beneficiary of a democratically conducted election, that there is another hand that will be used. I think stopping William Ruto is maybe you just postpone the elections. Let's have I'll hold no elections. But so long as there is an election in 2022 and William Ruto is alive and kicking, we're in for the game, and we want to assure Kenyans that we shall deliver on the promises that we shall make.
All right, Gabriel Muduma, because of the interest of time.
Truth of the matter is the person of William Ruto, as we speak, has a mathematical chance of winning this election. Just like probably what you would say about any other person coming in who has a national outlook. But then again, this issue, I want us to divorce ourselves from this issue of a hidden hand. I honestly don't want us growing knowing that if you are the best or you are the right candidate, you need something else to make you. No. I think our democracy should be governed by the rule of law. Our democracy should produce the best person who is elected by majority of Kenyans, or as our democracy stipulates. This idea of us talking about underhands and shadows, I think we are creating a lot of uncertainty because many young Kenyans who want to be elected in positions will grow up believing that it is not only doing my best, I need some element of, I need some sort of arrangement. I need some sort of shadowy characters to propel me to a seat. And I don't think that's the right thing to be talking about. What you need, or what I'm praying for, is to have the best candidate. And also to have the person who puts a spirited fight for Wanjiku, someone who has the best of interest for Wanjiku, someone who wants to change our country for the better.
All right, Gabriel, at that point of change, I suppose that's where we'll have to end the discussion.
Can I have a second, Abu Bakari?
Haman, go ahead.
Can I have a second?
Go ahead, Haman.
You see, I should not be misunderstood to say there is the deep state, there is who wins. I'm just saying, in many contests in the world, it's not always your sweat. Even the World Cup, the team that finally advances to the semi, to the final, and even win, is rarely dependent entirely on the prowess of that team. There are games played during the World Cup. There are things that underhand deals, from the preparation to the seeding.
Professor, save us.
Politics is the same. There are intricacies in politics.
All right,
Haman. If you went there assuming,
Professor,
just because.
Haman, we'll have to end the discussion there because of the interest of time. Haman Manyora is our residential analyst and a political analyst as well. Caleb Kostani is a member of parliament, and Gabriel Muduma, who joined us lately but made a valuable contribution to the show, is a political analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us. Haman, on a lighter note, you say you probably need 3 weeks to rewrite and come up with a document. I'm giving you 1 week so that we have you back on Monday on the show.
A people document.
All right, and let me go through some of your feedback. You, the viewer, of course, your voice matters. And as far as these debates and discussions here on the county's television is concerned, on 22047, someone was not mentioned. His or her name says, I think all this BBI scenario is nothing but a scam. Someone else says, Ruto on the Bingwa 2022. He or she has not equally mentioned the name. Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Pundits Night. On behalf of the entire team that made this production possible, bye for now. Enjoy the rest of our programs tonight of all nights. God bless and good night. We value your feedback, welcome any comments, queries or complaints regarding our programming content. You can get in touch with us on 0768095491 or send us a message